Hi everybody, this is Diane. I have completed these two pansy journals and I think they are just so charming and sweet and I love them. They are quite different in color on the front, but they're very, very similar inside. They both have this wallpaper border piece on the front, but they have a different color scheme on the front, like I mentioned. This one had a lavender cover, so I chose this section of the wallpaper border that had more purples in it. And so there are purples on the cover. I was covering up some places on the cover where the tape from the book jacket had torn the paper on the cover. So that's why I had to cover the back. This is a scrap of the Stampin' Up! Paper, and this is a little piece of wrapping paper that I had. I'm not sure if that was, it might have been in the last bunch of vintage wallpaper that I got, and it had some small pieces in it. So this was the only piece that I had. And I didn't know what I was going to do with it until I was decorating the covers yesterday. And it's perfect there. I use this piece of patchwork that has a lot of purple in it. This one has a charm on the side, has a little ladybug, because you will find ladybugs in your garden. Sorry, let me turn that. There we go. And yeah, I love the way the purple looks. And then I thought this one is going to look dull in comparison to that one because it doesn't have that much color. I had this kind of almost beige color cover, and I chose this portion of the border that has a beigey colored pansy with dusty roses, a deeper one and a lighter one. And I thought it was pretty, but I thought it's just not going to have the same pop as this one. But I think it turned out really, really nice. I used a border stamp with StazOn brown ink to stamp the cover. So I had to stamp it up here and then again down here. But where the stamp overlapped, it's covered up by it overlaps just a little bit right there. You can see it's not that bad looking, but it's covered up by that wallpaper piece. And I used a pale yellow chenille to do the spine. And then I took the rose color out of the wallpaper border and used the rickrack in that color. And I think it looks lovely. It's not as vibrant looking as the lavender, but it's very subdued and just lovely, I think. So they both have a different look, but I love them both. So let's take a look inside. This one, what is this one tied with? This one was tied with a white seam binding. They're nice small journals, smallish, so they fit in your hand nicely. And this one is just slightly smaller. It measures 4 7/8 by 7 1/4. So I don't forget, I'll tell you this one right now. This one is 5 by 7 3/4. And they both have a 2-inch spine. I put a little bit of pale pink lace behind this to cover up where the cover was, the paper was torn on the cover. And I added this little digital from Nick the Booksmith. It just says journal, and I forgot to see if I wanted to do one of those on that one. I left the purple papers on the end papers of this book and just added this printable label that you can write your name on. And I added this really beautiful, very colorful piece of fabric on the inside with some purple and white rickrack. You saw me do, if you watched my process videos, you saw me decorate pages like these. So there's a doily, paper doily glued down, and I cut part of that doily out so that this card wouldn't be digging into that doily and pulling it up. Because even though it would have been glued down, this would have probably kept digging into it. So I cut that part off, and this is a printable of one of my antique postcards. So in these journals, I included original antiques and digitals of postcards and the flower seed labels. So this one is a digital, and you can purchase these in my shop. And I added this variegated seam binding there. And this one is also a digital. And I just made this card out of lavender cardstock and added this little journaling card. Looks like a Project Life card. And I made a purple gingham tab and put a bulb pin on that has these little beads. I used my new grommet set, and I did that in a video. And here we have a glassine pocket in a bright pink color, and I added this yellow and white lace and a little digital calling card. This is an authentic antique postcard. Isn't that beautiful? All of my Pansy postcards are in these two journals, and I believe it's in French. I don't know the year. And another digital of my seed packet labels. This is music score sheet that you would write music on, and I put a lavender lace on the edge. And this is a greeting card or a note card full of Johnny Jump Ups or pansies. I used to have Johnny Jump Ups in my yard and I loved them. There's a little pansy stamp on this dyed paper that I got from Nine of Crones. I did this little collage with some words from this old Stampin' Up! Stamp. I stamped them and then cut the words out. I sewed around the little squares of the words. I sewed around some of the other pieces. So there's a little piece of wrapping paper there that has pansies on it, a little textured paper, and a little bow. And this was just a die cut that I received in a Happy Mail, and there were lots and lots of these nice sturdy floral die cuts, and one of them was a pansy. So I got those quite a long time ago, and I have used them in quite a few journals. So I just used the last, I don't know how many pansy ones I had, but I used the last one. And this is a vintage little gift card with pansies on it. This is a glassine bag, and I Mod Podged a napkin to it. And I made a little tag that fits in the bag with some cardstock and added some fibers. And in behind it, I just tucked this piece. I think it was a 1954, excuse me, appointment book that this page came out of. And I just made a little pocket here and added some paper you can journal on. And this is a genuine antique or vintage, I don't know how old they are, French seed packet label. So it has the French name. And then someone made this hand-painted little Christmas card with a pansy on it. Merry Christmas from Grace, somebody to Ruby Nash. And I really wonder how old that is. I love it. There's some gift wrap here and a piece of stationery. And then I have a ledger from a 1930s pad that was for the county courthouse in Towanda, Pennsylvania. Some green copy paper, some lined paper, and then I just took one of the cut-off pieces of the gorgeous Stampin' Up! Paper. I didn't tell you that the double-sided pretty paper that I used is a nice sturdy paper from Stampin' Up! And it's called Pansy Petals, and it's new. I just ordered it as soon as the catalog became available. And it's a beautiful paper, and a lot of the backs have ginghams, There are 6 different designs, and you get 2 of each sheet. So they're just a nice, it's a pattern, but not, it's more subtle. So I folded it so that the pretty part was on the inside, although I covered up a lot of it there. And the more, I don't know, neutral pattern was on the front, so I could put the pockets there. But I took the cut-off pieces and made a smaller page in the center, and I added a little pocket there with one of those words from the stamp, and I tucked in a couple of little trading cards, lady trading cards from Tailor-Made Journals. On the inside, I just added some printables that I have in my stash that I just glued on for writing. And this lady was also in my stash. I just put her on as a little tuck spot and one of the digital flower seed labels. I'm going into a lot of detail on this first signature, and after that I won't need to because all the signatures have the same elements. This is a genuine piece from a Victorian scrapbook or an antique scrapbook. It was from a page in a seed catalog. So I just cut that pansy out. And then this pansy illustration and definition is from a children's dictionary that I recently got. And I just backed it with that pink glassine. There's a Stampin' Up! Paper with the pansy leaves. I made a fabric flip. This is a hand-dyed paper, hand-colored paper. I believe I used distress inks or sprays or something. I did it a long time ago, and I've had quite a few pieces of it that I've been using more recently. And this is just the edge of a embroidered table runner. Somebody had sent me some strips of batik fabrics in purples and aquas and pinks, which were perfect for the colors. So I took one of the strips and made a little ruffle there. And here is the other pansy stamp that I have. So you'll see those 2 stamps throughout the journals. There was just some text right here on the back of that greeting note card, so I just put that little journal spot there. And this is the last page on this signature, and I just took a pansy embroidered handkerchief, made a pocket out of it. It is sewn to a piece of vellum, so you can still see through it, but it makes it sturdier. And I Mod Podged a pansy napkin to this white vintage shipping tag. And here is a doily, little paper doily glued to the back, and a journaling spot, and then another piece from that seed catalog. So now we're just going to start on the second signature with the same elements, different pictures. I did some different embellishing with trims and things like that. And this bulb pin has a tiny little bell on it. That's digital. Actually, this is, I made a copy of the postcard, so this is larger than the digitals would be. I actually copied the actual postcard. When I scan the postcards to make digitals out of them, they're smaller. I need to glue this little piece of leaf down that's poking up. So this purple gathered lace on the edge of the paper this time. And this is a different note card, a shaped one. So pretty. Another collage that I made. This one has a piece of that variegated seam binding and a digital fussy cut pansy and a purple merchandise tag. And this one has a purple library card tucked in behind it. Isn't that Stampin' Up! Paper so pretty? And I used scraps of the Stampin' Up! Paper to make pockets, and like you saw, that smaller page. This is a digital postcard with a pansy on it. And this is an original vintage seed label. Wrapping paper. This is a ticket that I Mod Podged a napkin to. The napkin was darker than I like for this, but you can still see the word ticket through there. And I just put this little piece from Mrs. Coggs, From the Heart of a Friend. She has a digital called From the Heart of a Friend, and it has these little quotes from a little book that she had and scanned. This lady I put onto a piece of vellum, and this is a piece of napkin Mod Podge to a colored index card. This is the end paper from this book, the one that would have been facing this. I just put a little label on this wrapping paper page, and another fabric flip with a piece of that table runner. This had embroidered pansies on it, and you will see some of those pieces used as pockets, but I took some of the trimmed edges, crochet trimmed edges, and made things with it. And this is from an embroidered silk handkerchief. This is a fat little book. Again, I covered up the text, the brand name of that card. There's a fabric ruffle there. And here is a piece of that embroidered table runner with the pansy. And another Mod Podged tag and card. And this is from a vintage calendar. This was cut from a book. And the third signature has another digital of a pansy postcard and some yellow lace and the green leaf trim. This is a blue glassine pocket. I doubled the glassine to make it a little thicker. And I just did a little collage there. This is a vintage Denison sticker. I had two of the pansies, so there's one in each journal. And this is a copy of one of my antique postcards. And then I had this little book jacket from a little book, The Language of Flowers, and it had this image on the front and the back of the book jacket. So I just trimmed it and I put one of the pieces in each journal. There's a tag in there and a blue library card. I think pansies just look so friendly and cheery, happy. There's another label. This came from a book, I think a gardening book, and I covered the back. It was just text back there with a piece of paper you can journal on and some washi tape. And this is a genuine label. I did not put paper on this because this is light enough that you can write on. If you notice, I folded these squares so that it doesn't quite meet the edges, so that you can see the double-sided paper. It just gives a more interesting look to have that edge showing. And there's another fabric flip. This one was already in my stash. It was the only one I had with purple fabric, so I put that in. There's a little cluster with another piece of that embroidered silk handkerchief. and there's that pretty multicolored fabric with a little piece of lace, and this is one of the stamps. I colored it with my markers to get the different colors on it, and then stamped it, and punched it with a tag-shaped punch. That's a little journaling card, and I added these fussy cut pansies. And in the back is a pocket, and I just trimmed this a little bit from a gardening card, and I had to trim it so it would fit in there, and then I added that. So this one is the Purple Pansy Journal. I'm just going to call this one the Sweet Pansy Journal. I don't want to say beige. So this is a Sweet Pansy Journal. And I already talked about all the embellishments and decorations on the cover. So let's just go inside. This was not a pretty end paper. It was brown, and it was also gunked up. It was a library book, so it had stuff taped on it and pulled off, and it was a mess. So I covered it with one of the leftover Stampin' Up! Papers, but I used the flip side for the gingham. And this is a vintage book plate, and I just used this little printable label to cover up the person's name that was on it. And I put this yellow fabric on the inside of the spine and a pale yellow rickrack. So all of the elements in this journal are the same as in the other, so I will just flip through so you can see them, the different images that were used. This is a genuine tag or label, and this is a vintage thank you card. So pretty. And there's a note written on the inside. Oh, it opens this way. Dear George and Alice, these are originals cut from that scrapbook. And this is a quote from a little children's book. "Oh goody," said Pansy. So I backed it with the pink glassine and just put that up there. And here's a little flip made with that embroidered silk handkerchief. It says Souvenir de France. So this handkerchief actually came from France as a souvenir. And here's the pocket I made with that handkerchief. I backed it with some purple cardstock. This is original vintage piece. And an antique postcard. You've seen the image printed digitally, but this is the real thing. And there is no year stamped on it. And here's that little book jacket. And the vintage Denison sticker. This one has this little piece that I cut with my Cricut. Sometimes I just cut a bunch of things and stick them in my binders for ephemera, and I just pulled this out to see what I could do with it, and I just framed those two sweet little pansy faces with that, edged it with some purple ink, and just glued it on there in the collage. This is the original piece. I had made a copy of it, or I it's in one of my digital ephemera kits, so I used a smaller image of it in the other book, but this is the original piece. There's a pink ticket up there. This is the other end paper from that purple journal. There's lots of space for writing. I think it won't be super easy to write in it because it is so fat, but you can write in it. There's a vintage label and a vintage card from a gift of flowers. It says flowers up here, and it's dated 1948, and it's from Mrs. Passmore and Ray. And I kind of hate to give this up because my maiden name is Passmore, but I don't know who this is. I don't know who Ray is. So I don't think she's anybody closely related to me at all. But I was startled to see that. I got it, it was some distance from here, from my house. I remember I got it in a scrapbook full of greeting cards, mostly baby cards that were glued into a scrapbook. And this was in there. And the final signature, I put the grommet on backwards so that the design is on the back of this card, but that's one of the original pieces. It was from this larger, some of the pansies that I've said were originals, they were from this larger piece, and I just cut pansies out of it and glued them on. So this one has a printable and a genuine seed label. This was cut from a printed envelope that I had. This is a post-it note card. And this one I got in a Happy Mail. It's a bridge tally with cross stitch on it. Isn't that cute? I thought it was adorable. Perfect for these pansy journals. And this is a really pretty postcard that came with some digital set, or library card, I mean. And here again is one of those pieces, a bigger piece that I cut with my Cricut. And in this case, I just laid it down on top of the paper so that it would frame one of the pansies. And another flip with some of that embroidered handkerchief. And there is the final pocket with the embroidered piece on there. And there is a pocket on the back cover. And this is one of my digitals. It's a larger card. It has a big wide border and I had to trim the border off, but it's one of my large advertising cards that I picked up at the flea market. It's antique, Victorian. And it's in one of my digital sets. So there we go. Two beautiful little pansy journals. This one is just the purple pansy journal, and this one is the sweet pansy journal. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this project. Please tell me what you think of them and leave a comment below. I would really, really appreciate it. I love to read your comments. And give me a thumbs up so that Facebook will share my video, will suggest my video to other viewers. And please come back to see what the next project will be. I will see you in the next video. Have a creative day today. Bye-bye.